Hey everyone, it's Alex Ball with another episode of the No-Till Market Garden Podcast. On today's show, we sit down with Bill and Kathy Sample of Argus Farm Stop in Ann Arbor, Michigan. We dig deep on running a consignment-only local grocery store, working with farmers in your community, and building food access. So with any further ado, let's get to the show.
Today's episode of the No-Till Market Garden Podcast is brought to you by BCS America. BCS two-wheel tractors are designed and built in Italy, where small-scale farming has been a way of life for generations. Discover the beauty of BCS on your farm with PTO-driven implements for soil working, shredding cover crops, spreading compost, mowing under fences, clearing snow, and much more, all powered by a single gear-driven machine that's tailored to the size and scale of your operation. We have been using a BCS tractor on our farm since 2014, and it has saved the day and leveled the workload more times than I can count. And I find new ways to employ it every single season. To learn more, view sale pricing, or locate your nearest dealer, visit bcsamerica.com. That's bcsamerica.com. To learn more, view sale pricing, or locate your nearest dealer, visit bcsamerica.com. That's bcsamerica.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Certified Naturally Grown. At the heart of sustainable ag is the belief that soil health and thriving ecosystems grow the very best food. Certified Naturally Grown is a grassroots certification program that recognizes direct market farmers using holistic methods and shows your customers that the products you bring to market are grown to the highest ecological standards. If you're looking for an affordable certification option that focuses on the thriving of local farms and foodways, you're going to want to check out CNG. Their peer-to-peer inspections create opportunities for farmers to connect, exchange knowledge, and build regional support between growers. Certify your produce, flowers, livestock, apiary, aquaponics, or mushroom operation today. Find out more at cngfarming.org. That's cngfarming.org. All right, enjoy the show.
Okay, I'm super excited to have Kathy and Bill on the podcast today to talk about Argus. So Bill, what's going on here? What's the whole story about Argus?
Wow. Well, thanks for coming over, Alex. We're super happy to have interest in the story and what we've been working on here. What Argus is an everyday farmers market that operates on a new model. And we've been in business. We opened in 2014 with one location, and now we have 3 in Ann Arbor. And it's a way that solves the problem that it's just been too difficult to buy local food. Like, there's a lot of people who want to shop from local farms, but they're not always able to get to the farmer's market on the day when it's open, or they're not dedicated enough to do a farm share or CSA, but they still, if there was something a little bit easier that would give the same economics to the farm and just would be available on Tuesdays, for example, like, they would love to shop there. And so that's kind of the market segment we're trying to serve here. And we really underestimated. Like, we think for every one person who goes to the farmer's market, there's probably 20 who just didn't get there that day.
Yeah.
And those people, they love shopping at Argus as an alternative. And the other thing we kind of found was farms, were able to produce more, but it was a struggle to get ready, again, just for farmer's market. You start your harvest process, you start it going. And if you have bad weather, you don't get the customers to show up that you thought. You end up hauling back, disaster, food that you've, had ready for sale and you didn't sell it. And so we saw frustrations on that side. And we really saw, the farmers markets are great. And the farms love them, customers love them, but there needed to be something else. And so we started Argus to try to solve that problem.
Yeah, so I can totally see you found an issue and tried to solve it. When you guys started this this local food journey, what kind of pushed you into it? What led both of you into not only local food but starting this business?
Well, we've always shopped at farmers markets, and we actually hosted a CSA when we lived in New Jersey years ago, and we've always felt it was important to support small local farms and to understand who was growing our food. So we decided to do something together, and we happened to be in Worcester, Ohio, where our son was going to college, and we stumbled upon this great little business called Local Roots in Worcester, which is a college town, but a small town in kind of north central Ohio. And this was the business model that was local farms bringing in their goods on a consignment basis. It's a little different than what we eventually ended up doing, but we were so intrigued by it that we asked the people who were running it, Jessica Barkheimer was the person who started it, if we could learn more about it. And so she welcomed us, and their staff let us shadow there. They shared all their systems that they were using to pay the farmers with, because it's kind of complicated.
Yeah.
And so we took away from that the basic model of Argus, and we just tailored it to the Ann Arbor community.
Yeah, and that first, what was the name again of that first shop that you visited again?
Local Roots.
Local Roots. And were there any other, let's say, kind of consignment model stores before them in the area, or was the first one that you'd seen?
We saw them, and they were actually profiled in, I think, the Washington Post as this kind of new model that should be considered. So they helped us the most, but at that time, there was one other one in Huntington, West Virginia, called the Wild Ramp.
I like that.
And there's a lot of similarities between those two stores and Argus. Like, we all use the same point of sale system, which is Retail Edge, which lets you run this kind of a business. And the one in Huntington, West Virginia, called the Wild Ramp, was structured as a nonprofit, and its primary goal was food access. It's a lower income community, and they really wanted to address food access and use local farms, where Local Roots is more directed at making sure the local farms survive so that we can all, take care of each other better. And I think Argus is also, when we had to pick our kind of mission, it's been primarily we need to get our farms earning sustainable incomes, or there's not going to be a local food system that could be generous. And so, we've now morphed into more food access, and so has Local Roots, but it's a little bit of a different take of some of the models. There's some similarities and some differences.
Yeah, and these maybe be cleared up for folks. What's the basis of your consignment model, just in quickly?
Sure. So, the consignment approach maintains kind of the authentic transaction that customers are buying from the farm, goods that the farm owns. The farm can set the price. When we were starting Argus, we interviewed some farms, and they were kind of upset, that they would sell some of their products at wholesale and lose control of how it's priced. And they saw some of the local, outlets overpricing their goods, and they wanted to maintain control over that. And so by having them set the price and own the goods, they can control that. We also, as a goal, wanted to break the traditional paradigm that is in America everywhere in grocery stores, which is you pay as little as you can to the farm and you charge as much as you can to the customers. And we hated that paradigm because that's the one that keeps pushing farms into the lower income. And so we organized Argus as a mission-driven LLC company.
Okay.
So we're not in it trying to make personal wealth out of this business. We're trying to use this as a way to channel money from consumers into the farms. And so we set the amount that we can pay out to the farms each year. So when it's consignment, we take a percentage of sales that covers the cost of the store and staff. And right now we pay out 70% to the farms, which compared to nationally, farms get 15 or 16% of the retail sales dollar. So we're paying out 4 or 5 times higher than what farms nationally would pay to farms. But the consignment model is there because it's, we could have just bought all the produce. We weren't trying to shift risk. Sometimes farms hear consignment and they get the short end of the stick. And because they're at risk of the loss, like if the product doesn't sell. It turns out we have very little product that doesn't sell. The whole store sells out every 3 or 4 days.
Wow.
And it's because we have very fresh produce. We get multiple deliveries a week from most produce farms, so it's very fresh and it just sells. So there's not a lot of waste, and mainly customers can see the math. They can say, "Oh, this product, costs $5."
Yeah.
Okay, I know how much is going to the farm. I know the other part is going to this organization that's making this possible. And so we picked consignment to have an authentic transaction. with the math on the wall.
Yeah, a level of transparency that allows people to feel comfortable spending those prices, whatever it may be for that item, not knowing that you're adding a 60-cent markup on a 10-cent pound of tomatoes.
Yeah, exactly.
And we actually use it as an educational opportunity. So if somebody says to us, why is this particular chicken so expensive compared to what I see in a grocery store, we can say, because that farmer feeds the chicken this way, and this is a heritage chicken, it takes longer to grow, it's raised in a very humane environment, and he doesn't have very many of them. Like we can give that education, and we can actually say, you want to call Mark? Here's his phone number. You can ask him about how he grows his chickens or whatever. So it's a way to be able to educate the consumer about really what happens when food is grown or raised.
Yeah, so you said earlier, we talked about the produce. What types of items does Argus sell from, a grocery? I saw a cafe when I walked in, some events, some consulting. What are the different legs that make up the Argus model for y'all?
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing we found right away, just running the financials, was if you're paying out 70%, that's not leaving a lot of money to run the store. And so we wanted a companion set of products, and coffee is one that we brought in from the beginning that's higher margin, and all the money goes into the same pot, and it lets us have some higher margin items as long as in companion with the items that the farms are selling through the store. And so coffee is an important economic contributor. It turns out that coffee is also very important for community, that it tends to really be a place that you can pause and have a little respite during your day, whether you're a farmer or whether you're a customer. But we've then added in a tavern license, and so we have local beers and wines. But those are I think, just the ancillary products that, help round out, the experience here. I think Kathy's always said that when you think about what you want to sell in the store, it can't just be the lettuce store. We wanted to have a full set of offerings and to show off what's available. Like Michigan is one of the best places in the world to have a local food economy because we can grow fruit, we can grow produce, we can make cheeses, we can do dairy. We have the potential to do all these things. And so why couldn't you have a store that from garlic to to even canola oil was one that we didn't have when we started, and Kathy was saying we should have a local canola oil. So now we've had a B&B Farms canola oil, and everything else in between. Coffee from local roasters, so that when you shop here, you can make it your first stop, and you may need to go to a regular store to get aluminum foil and citrus fruit. But just about everything else you can get here.
Yeah, and I feel it sounds to me like it's not that different from more traditional grocery, where the produce, if it's not unprofitable, it's at 1-2% margin. So it doesn't seem that different from a lot of other traditional models that use other products to subsidize to the overall operation. When you all started, I'm assuming you had very limited, you're more limited to just your grocery. So your alcohol and stuff was added later. Those early years when it was more, let's say, dependent on produce sales, was it harder to, let's say, keep pushing on to keep the business stabilized? Or was it kind of just like, okay, well, we know where we're heading to, we have a few more years until we can get these other higher margin products to help out a little bit?
I think we were a little overly ambitious in the beginning because we really, and our whole staff is in it to help the farms have sustainable income. So we were paying out 80% of sales and had one store, which was made it harder. And we just set it so we would break even. The challenge was that we really had to execute perfectly with no problems or no breakdown of equipment every year. And we found that that's not sustainable for us. And so at the end of, I think, the second year, we had a discussion with our farms and said, we're really on thin ice here at those. We need to change the sharing so that Argus gets more of that retail dollar. And they were unanimous in their support. They said, you're so better than our next best alternative. Do what you need to do. We trust you. Just make sure you stay here. Don't go away. Don't make a decision that, makes it that you're going to lose the business because you're not keeping enough money. So it's I'd say in the beginning we were cutting a little close, and we feel better now, a little bit more sustainable where we are now. But it wasn't. I don't think it was
It wasn't dire.
It wasn't dire.
Was just as we added an additional location, and then you get all the overhead that's associated with managing more people and more things, we just needed that comfort to know that if your freezer breaks, you're going to have the cash flow to pay for that. So it's been a natural thing, and nobody's left because we went to a 70-30 model, and it's actually it seems pretty sustainable at that level.
Fantastic. So it sounds like it was a real community-driven back decision on some level. It seemed the real value in this these ways to not only save the farmer time, but just make them a little more money and create more markets for them to not only focus more in, but really to focus their production down to things that are really profitable for them, giving them an outlet like this. You mentioned it earlier, multiple locations. How many different sites make up the Argus, let's say, the family, and how do they differ from each other? How do they serve different purposes? We're here at the cafe right now, and I remember this being the original location back in the day. I didn't even know that the other one was down the street from here.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know they were so close.
Yep. So we started with one location on the west side of Ann Arbor in an old gas station that was abandoned. Like, picture a typical old gas station where you walk in and then there's a place where you drive your car and they put it up on a thing. So we took this old abandoned building and made it into a little grocery with a coffee bar. And eventually they got so popular that we added a greenhouse for customer seating. People would say, "What are you growing?" And we said, "We're growing community," because we needed a place for people to be, because it became what we wanted it to be. Then we expanded to this location where we're sitting at 1200 Packard with the same idea, but it had a cafe and a market. But with COVID, we ended up shutting the entire location and making it an online ordering fulfillment center with no cafe. So in the height of COVID, we did that. And that business grew so big and so fast that we needed another location for that.
Wow.
And instead of moving to the other side of town, we said, there's a building right down the street. It's literally, I can do it in 71 steps.
Exactly, 71.
Yeah, it's on the same block.
Yeah.
And so we moved the market down there and then opened up this location without the market and just a cafe and a tavern. And it seems to have worked pretty well. Is that a fair...
Yeah, we're so happy now to have a facility that kind of is meeting customer needs. Like, some customers want to shop just in the grocery only, and the third one at 1226 Packard has a little bit more room. You can actually shop with a little shopping cart, and so we can have a little bit of an expanded product offering there. And now, in the building we're sitting in, there's room for us to do this discussion here in the basement. There's room for seating upstairs. It's more reliable. If you want to meet someone at Argus and have a coffee, this is the one you can pretty much always find a seat at. And then the one on Liberty is just running as it always has. The community loves it. It's a bustling kind of a community between people getting coffee and people buying groceries that are all kind of intermingled.
Yeah, and how does that work? Do you have different items for different stores, or the same item across the board? How do you determine what you're going to offer at these different produce stores?
So we try to keep it pretty consistent, because you want customers. We're in a small. We're 2 miles, less than 2 miles apart. I think 1.5 miles of other stores differences. So you want consumers shop at both, and you don't want it to have really different offerings at both. So the only differences are if the store manager feels like there's not room for one thing or another, then they might say, "I don't want to carry this soap anymore," in favor of carrying vegetables. It just depends on what the store manager cares about and is able to carry, but they both have roughly the same exact thing. There's differences in egg producers, where some of these really small farmers only have enough eggs for one of our egg refrigerators. So, it just varies that way, but we try to be pretty consistent.
Yeah. And you mentioned something earlier I wanted to jump back to. You set up by your coffee shop. It's a place to meet, growing people. And I find a lot of times, too, especially for growing farmers, you need places to meet, especially since we have spent so much time away from each other. Mm-hmm. You need some central place to get together, spread ideas. And I remember multiple meetings back in the day coming to mm-hmm. Argus with other farmers. And I know probably maybe a few other businesses even grew and blossomed out of meetings here at Argus.
It's true.
That's a super important part. I think we really wanted to be the place that farms feel comfortable coming to. And so, if you compare it to, again, selling to the industrial system, if you were to, sell to a local store, you would often have to come before hours to the rear loading dock. You really wouldn't be recognized or allowed to work with your products in the store. At Argus, it's totally different. The farms really appreciate a place where they can go and feel like it's part of their space in the community. One thing we've done at Argus is always offer free coffee drinks to farms, so they whether they're making deliveries or just stopping by anytime, they feel like it's their part. They can come look at their products on display. If they have any feedback for our staff about messaging, display, we welcome it.
Yeah.
They also have a chance they can chat with customers. They can take 10 minutes or 30 minutes. It's up to them. But importantly, then they can go back and farm. And they don't really have to be here all day to keep track of their sales, that we do that for them. But it's that sense of community, and the coffee part is really important.
And it's also an opportunity for us to introduce customers to the farm. So let's just say Joan Ernst is in delivering, her 5th generation family farm has protein products.
Okay.
And if she's in delivering for the freezer, and it usually takes a while to take everything in and make sure that the staff knows what she's brought, I have every opportunity to know who buys her bacon and introduce them to her, because once you meet your farmer, you know how this goes as a farmer.
Yeah.
It's really important for people to know the brand that they're buying from. So it's a way to connect in their brain. This is where my food is coming from. So we just take the opportunity whenever we can.
Yeah, it seems not only a great way to market the product, but also a way to dial in and to develop these products. If you're able to connect the end consumer with the producer, you'll be able to get little tips and bits there that always help us refine our products. So it seems like just making the products you have here at Argus even more refined, more specific to the clientele that you're serving, which is fantastic. So with the consignment model, I went on your website and saw a humongous list of farmers that you all work with. How many folks are you working with right now?
So we started with like 30 or 40. Like that was enough in the beginning to get the store supplying, kind of one of everything.
Yeah.
But we really wanted to have a mixture so that you have 3 or 4 farms selling each item, but not more than 3 or 4. So that as a customer, you have a choice. You don't just have one carrot. Maybe you have, carrots that are bunched, carrots that are purple, and carrots that are bagged or something, as an example. So customers like choice. But once you go beyond 3 or 4, it's actually harder for the customer to make a decision and live. If you've ever been to the cereal aisle of a grocery store, it's paralyzing because there's too many options. So we wanted to keep to 3 or 4. We also didn't want to dilute the farm's efforts, so that if we're committing for you to sell something, we'll try to make sure you get a good percentage of the shelf space for that item. So following that, we grew from 30 to 40 in last year, and now we've kind of stabilized over 200 that sell through the farm throughout the course of the year.
That sounds like a crazy big number, but remember, there's a farmer who has just pawpaws, right?
Yeah.
Or a farmer who has quince, or a farmer who has chestnuts. So you have a few of these farmers who are very specific. There's a blueberry guy, a cranberry guy. So there's probably less than 30 farms who have a wide range of products, like 20 different things that they sell, like fresh produce stuff. But we depend on them because that produce deck is a thing of beauty, and they're the ones who keep us stocked with all that good stuff.
That's always a really great day, when someone recognizes that they could sell something that is, unique and available in Michigan through the store.
Yeah.
And we either find them or they find us, but suddenly, whether it's foraged mushrooms or pawpaws or something that you can really take pride on and be totally unique. Like those are products that never going to be sold in a regular grocery store, but they are something that our food system produces and brings, makes a good connection.
Have you found that a lot of these suppliers are just finding you? Are you going out searching them out, or are they kind of like field dreams? They're hearing about it and they're coming to sell their product.
They're finding us. Like they'll go to market, or they'll talk to a friend who'll say, "Why are you not at Argus?" or whatever, and then they'll come into Argus and they'll be, and submit an application. But also we have to search for some things because again, we're not just the lettuce store, so we have to search for. Like I would love to have another yogurt producer because it's really hard to find a good small yogurt producer, and the current one is fantastic, but we sell out. cheeses and yogurt, like dairy products. Michigan seems to have made it really difficult to be in the dairy business. And so for small farms, it's just, that's a slog. And so I'd love to have more things like that, but all kinds of quince. You know, I love it when people come in with persimmons, quince, all the things that we can grow, but are not grown locally anymore.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, in the beginning, we had to seek out everybody. There was no one who was instantly saying, you know, we've got 2 people opening this store at an unknown location, and would you sell through there under consignment?
Yeah.
Like, we got a lot of cross-eyed stares at us, or side glances, because it took some time, and Kathy spent a lot of time the 6 months before we opened just going to tell the story to the farms in our area about what we're trying to do. And then eventually, some of the bigger ones said, yes, we'll give it a try. And then once they were on, we had more. And then I think there was still skepticism until that first set of paychecks went out. So we pay out the farms twice a month, at the middle of the month for the first half and at the end of the month for the second half. And the checks that came through were really surprising how big they were. And it's just, the fact of being open every day and having a place where you can always buy, Alex's, produce or Tantry Farms produce, the sales kind of mount. And then I think ever since then we've had, a line of people kind of interested to come.
Well, they also, I think one thing about our system is that over 8 years, we've gotten more sophisticated in how we do the payout process.
Okay.
So our reporting, along with the check that they get, is pretty sophisticated, and it gives them a lot of itemization of what we sold.
Interesting.
So it gives them confidence in what we're selling for them, and also gives them guidance into what they can bring more of.
Yes.
As opposed to like a farmer's market, you come home and your pants are stuffed with dollar bills and $10 bills, and you're not sure what exactly all that's from, and it takes a lot of coordination to understand your inventory. And for us, we're able to tell them, this is exactly what we sold, this is what's not selling, so don't bring so much of that kind of thing. It's a good conversation to have with the farms.
And that's a really cool addition. So I've been a part of other consignment stores, and at the end of the month, the check is just a blank slate that says you've sold just how many units and a cost. No breakdowns, no information, no breakdown of waste. It's just here's money you get, which really kind of destroys your confidence in bringing this product there. Like you said, you're turning over your product about 3 or 4 days, but how can you get to that if you're not having real data going back to the producer who's supplying you? That's really fantastic that you've. And was all of this information, all of this programming, is this all what's called the retail? What was the program?
It's a super important part of the store, because we've seen other stores try to do it like with spreadsheets and stuff. It's quite challenging. Retail Edge is just the point of sale system.
Okay.
That local Roots in Worcester, Ohio was using, and they said it's working for us. They showed us how they get the data out to run reports, and we had so many things we were trying to invent. We didn't want to reinvent like a solution that was working. It's an inexpensive solution. It's about $1,000 or $1,500 for a license. That's one time.
Oh, really?
Which is like, more than 10 times lower than just about any other system out there. And it runs just on regular, like a Windows computer with a touch screen. So it's just, it's an elegant and simple solution that we've enjoyed using. And we do extracts from that so that we can then take the data and put it into a report format. And that's our staff member, Travis Bloom, is the magician who makes all that happen twice a month. And so that's I think the Retail Edge combined with some data gymnastics twice a month is how it all happens.
So maybe kind of along that same line, how do you communicate the demand with your farmers? How do you communicate? Is it a free let's say free selection where they come out and just bring 30 bunches if that's what they think they're gonna sell? How do you communicate with them?
This is the beauty of 8 years in business. It started out like, okay, first of all, you're a farmer, so you understand. Some farmers email. Some farmers you can call them. Some farmers you can't even call, right? Right?
Most a lot you can't.
Right. So every farmer wants to be communicated differently. Some text only. So we had to figure out among all our farmers their preferred way for communication. And then we've developed what we call the daily market happenings, which every day of the week at each of our stores, a staffer downloads that day, and it's going to tell them, here's who is going to call today, here's who's going to deliver today, here's who's going to email you their produce sheet today to say, this is what I've got. Here's who you need to call with an inventory. And so it's all spelled out for each day based on our predicted day when those farmers come in. And I'm not going to say it's fail-proof, because some farmers will come into town on a different day just because something happened. But in general, everybody knows what they have to get done that day in terms of communicating with the farm, and we're going to communicate how much we need of everything. So we're not going to take more than the farmer wants to bring us, except for tomato season, when every farmer brings way more, and then we have a massive effort to sell as many tomatoes as possible. But really, it's been refined over the years to the point where our produce managers, like Therese, who just walked by, they have a really quick conversation with the people they need to about how much they need. And so what comes in doesn't overwhelm us. And they also don't bring things that they weren't approved to bring in. Because what'll happen is you sign in to bring potatoes and onions, and the next thing you know, they're showing up with a lot of other things, which we might like to have, but in general, we need to plan.
Yeah.
So it just makes for good communication, and then they know what their best interests are. We're in it for them to win. So we take what they need from us into consideration. So we'll have like occurrences where a farm lost all their cucumbers because of something, but they do have a ton of corn. We're going to sell all that corn because we know now they're in a tough spot because they don't have this other crop. And so as long as we can communicate what's going on in your farm, what's happened, how did the wind blow your hoop house over? Like, these things happen.
Yes, they do. Yeah, it's the reality of farming, and I think that's a hard time. As you see with a lot of maybe local co-ops who are trying to, let's say, aggregate from other local farms, that they don't have that system that I'm hearing that you put in place to manage all these people.
Yeah, we really started. As Kathy said, we were thinking, it's consignment. They should bring in what they bring in, and they'll manage what they bring in. But we've really learned that, even though we're consignment, because we wanted that authentic transaction, transparency, that we should manage it as if we're, placing orders. And I think the farms like that better because we know what's selling, what's needed. So it's a little bit of a system that does both.
Yeah. So how far are these farmers coming to drop off here? What kind of the range of your producers? Had quite a few. You said specialty producer doing blueberries, probably on the west side of the state or whatever. Yep. But you said you have a core group of, let's say, 30 or so farms who supply that direct fresh veg. How far are those folks from y'all?
Probably if you're doing lettuce and really tender veggies, an hour would be like the outside, maybe an hour and 20 minutes, some, depending on, where we are in their distribution range. But generally, people who are doing the fresh stuff don't want to drive it.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, especially picture a 100-degree day in the summer. They do not want to be driving their stuff around very far. Yeah. So we stick to, and we've actually been able to cultivate, no pun intended, a lot of local farms who upped their growing practices in terms of the tender veggies, and just to serve us. So I feel like we can count on a smaller radius. We have some as close as 3 miles to the store. I mean, we've never set like a mileage limit. A lot of stores will say, "What do you define as local? Is it 50 miles?" And we found that we use a guideline that it should be as local as possible, and consignment as well. We have some. When we totally stock out of things, like we've exhausted the entire food supply, which we've done every year since we've started in certain items. First year, the garlic was all gone by January. You really can't have a store without garlic, But we still wanted Michigan garlic, so we developed a relationship with Cherry Capital, where they do source from Michigan farms, but we buy from them wholesale and they bring it down. So that's our backstop. So we tend to think as close as local as possible and consignment as possible, but it's also more of a guideline. And we're thankful for Cherry Capital because that means that our state has a more robust food system when you actually have a distributor that's focusing on Michigan grown things. So we're thankful to have them. And every year, it just varies based on what we stock out of. Because this year, like for sure, we're telling our farmers, grow more parsnips. Because we sell a lot of parsnips. People are discovering how awesome they are. And I'd rather not have to go as far or do wholesale with them. But we're happy to do what it takes.
In the garlic example too, the next year the farms grew a ton more garlic, and we didn't sell out till like March, but we sold out before the green garlic came in. And the next year they grew a ton more, and we made it all the way till April. But I think with garlic, we may have a year-round supply of local garlic that's in touch with demand, but it took years to kind of get into equilibrium.
Well, that's an educational thing too, because no matter what garlic you grow, your storage garlic is not going to last to July, which is when the new garlic comes in. So then you have an opportunity to teach the customers about garlic scapes, green garlic, the tender garlic that before it's like the full garlic clove that you see in a regular grocery. So it's an educational thing where people know I can substitute this for that. It's not the end of the world that this recipe calls for this,
Yes, totally. Yeah, I feel like as consumers, we can kind of be trained down to consuming, let's say, a garlic type crop, right? So whether it be a fresh garlic, a bulb garlic, whatever it is, as long as we have some type of garlic crop available, most times we're satisfied.
Yes.
For our own CSA, we've kind of moved to now we're doing storage onions, from end of summer until the spring, and then we're just doing green onions in that time in the time period, even large bulb green onions, and the consumer, our members are just happy to have an onion product
in there.
In
we
general.
love those discussions where there's a real interest in customers to become, good local foodivores, and there's training and opportunities there. But how do you eat in season and how do you eat locally? Requires, some thinking like that. So we love it if you can get into conversations like that, like you're having with our customers.
Yeah, it definitely takes time to not only figure out what works for your consumer, but just to build up the back end, let's say infrastructure. But in your place would be the farmers to produce those items. It's never a quick process. I have an idea, concept would work. Let's trial it, and then in 3 years it might see some actualization.
Yes,
which is it's always it's such a long con, and it's so nice though to have y'all have a third party who aren't direct farmers organizing this for the people in the community. That's fantastic.
Today's episode is brought to you by RIMOL Greenhouses.
Whether it's tomatoes to market, flowers in the spring, or your family's harvest, growing in a greenhouse protected from the weather provides the right environment that you need for a harvest that you can count on. RIMOL Greenhouses are designed for durability and offer the quality that you need to grow productively year-round. Visit RIMOLGreenhouses.com to get a quote today.
If I may editorialize for a second, I own a RIMOL tunnel. I love it. We built it ourselves, and I really appreciated the quality of the tunnel as well as the customer service we received in the process, so make sure to check them out. Today's episode is also brought to you by Orisha. Orisha is a greenhouse automation company whose mission is to make agriculture more ecological and productive through advanced technology. Orisha automates all temperature, humidity, and irrigation management systems. Their products are designed to be instinctive, easy to install, and wireless, and their remote management application allows growers to save time. In addition, the integration of AI in their programs offers more precision and better control over the various factors influencing the environment inside your greenhouse. Last thing, Orisha wants to help market gardeners optimize their yields. Automating allows a better quality of life, can save several weeks of labor costs, and saves nearly 20% in energy costs. Listeners can use the promo code NOTILLGROWER, that's 3 words, NOTILLGROWER, to get 15% off your order. Check them out at orisha.io. That's ORISHA.io. All right, back to the show.
So you kind of mentioned, and alluded to it earlier, but it kind of seems that these farms are just really growing naturally with you. Have you seen a lot of niche product development from these producers because of the opportunity to sell them? Have you seen new things popping up because of the opportunity?
Yeah, we really have. I'll give you an example.
Yes.
Flowers. So we would sell a lot of flowers. We and it was really nice, but it was more on what we had basis, like whatever came in. Then farmers started to realize, I can sell beautiful bouquets, and they in Ann Arbor, the Michigan Flower Growers Cooperative was started by some of our farmers at Argus, and they decided to start selling in a group to florists to try to convince florists not to buy so many flowers that were grown like in Asia or South America.
Yes.
And so they started working on that, and they really got more robust. And now we have a flower subscription that we did for 22 weeks this year, where we, every week, the customers who signed up for that flower subscription, I think there's like 30 different customers, would come in and pick up their flower bouquet that was going to be different every week. But this was something that didn't exist when we started. So, I mean, that's just one example, but there's all kinds of niche products too. And like I mentioned, parsnips. That's something you can teach people about cooking. When you just talk about a parsnip and people just have forgotten about rutabagas and kohlrabi and parsnips and all these cool things that they occupy a weird space at a big grocery store because they're all covered in wax and they come from way far away. We can actually talk to them at the produce deck and say, this would be a great accompaniment in your stir fry with that other thing. We have that conversation because our staff, one of our questions when we hire is, how much do you cook and what do you like to cook and are you good at it and do you want to talk about it? Because the customers want to be engaged with the store
100%.
people, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like mimicking that farmer market experience. And you're there talking to the farmer, you're there discussing how to cook, how to use our farm market worker. He's a local foodie himself, and I can't imagine trying to hire somebody who didn't cook with the food they were growing, who understood how to break those things down. You mentioned earlier kind of like this lack of like the kohlrabi, turnip hate. No one's giving love for those crops, and I kind of feel like, especially in our fast food society, we really prioritize eating, quick things, our salads, our radishes, little peppers, things that we use to process, and that some of those historical storage crops that really filled a really important niche in the winter have been kind of forgotten and kind of pushed aside. But I think it has some of the best flavors, the kohlrabi, and a lot of those turnip crops are so popular and are so sustainable in the long term of talking about like local food production and consumption. There's such a huge future that they make a huge component of the future of local food eating are those winter storage crops.
Yes.
So, and we'll have someone, come into the store maybe around now, looking for something like asparagus, and they have a recipe in their hand, and they're looking for asparagus, and they say, "Do you have asparagus?" And it's like the question we love because you get to launch into a little bit of the, we're growing locally in season. We do have some frozen asparagus from farm to freezer. You can take that, but let's take a look at your recipe, and that's where, as Kathy mentioned, like with a parsnip, if someone doesn't know what it is, we say, you can roast that. It'll substitute great into that recipe. Just give it a try. And they leave not knowing really what this thing is in their hands, and they come back a week later and they say, "That was amazing,"
Yeah.
And what else? And then like over a few visits, they're not coming in with their recipe anymore. They're coming in to say, what came in the last week? What cool thing did your farms grow? Because it changes every week, every day. And we have no idea what next week is going to bring. Generally, it's very week to week. But they give something else a try. So it's it's a good thing, I think.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like that, what's the store called? Marshall's, where you come in for, it's that treasure hunt mentality, right? If you come in every day, the seasonality mentality, you come in, what's new, what's fresh, and what's kind of a fun way to adjust to my current eating habits. So I saw on your website that you're now offering delivery for your online orders. I want to know a little more about that. What areas do you delivering to? Make sure it says $5 the cost. Is that profitable? What's going on with the delivery?
Yeah. So first of all, during COVID, we had an explosion of online interest, and we had a small online system, and we probably had fewer than 10 orders a month, largely to local restaurants that knew that we had cool things, and we just wanted a way for them to not come in and buy us out of every, fairy eggplant that we had, for example, that we could organize that. So it was a system designed for that demand. And with COVID, we had an older customer who knew that he was at high risk. He said, before anyone else really was even wearing masks, he said, "This is my last time out. I'm going to be going into my place. I'm going to stay below, the surface until this thing goes over. Can you guys deliver my groceries to us?" And we said, "Of course we can." And
then we had all of our employees driving around in their cars delivering stuff because we love these people and we want to make sure they had food. But, driving stuff around in your Subaru is not a way to run a business.
And so it went from 10 or 12 orders to over 2,000 orders in the next few months. And so we totally had to change, what we were doing. And we thought we were never going to offer delivery necessarily. But then it was just, we had to do it. We jumped in and we ended up buying a delivery vehicle from the University of Michigan. And
we should give them props, because when this whole thing started and we needed a delivery van, we called the head of dining at the U of M and said, Steve, we're in a bind. We need a van. And he leased us a U of M catering van for, we did it 6 or 8 months. We drove around in this M dining car delivering, but he understood our situation, and their whole catering thing was shut down. So it just shows that having a good community around local food benefits you. And the U has been great, and so all those vans then went on auction, and so we bought one of them.
So, and we've been really, so the customers that started shopping online still are, a bunch of them are still shopping online. And for whatever reason, they're not mobile, they can't get into the store. And so it's an important part of our business. And then we've added in a weekly produce box where we're in a position, from across these, 30 to 100 farms to pull in a mixture every week of a $30 box. And so a lot of people they want to participate in the local food system. They leave it up to our judgment to put in the best that is available that week. And so that's become a prominent part. And so we're currently delivering and or allowing pickup to the delivery is in Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti, and the pickup is at either of our stores and at a few other places around town. And we played with different models. Your question is, the $5 delivery, is that working? We've played with different models of how to price and do this. And our feeling is we wanted to not have price be an impediment. We know who we're delivering to. They're people we care about. We didn't want to cut that off. And at some point, we'll revisit those economics. They're not a disaster. They're probably not what a normal business would do. But I think as the potential there is, if you're in our community, so at least one of these produce boxes, can become a part of a lot of people's lives. Like if you just want to be financially contributing to these farms and you want to do it in the easiest manner, to have an economically viable box that just comes to your door once a week. There could be, I think currently we're at 200 a week that we do these delivery or produce boxes, and you could, easily double or triple or more of the volume of that. And so I think we're not really putting a lot of pressure on the delivery fee at this point. We're just trying to grow the business and get people used to local food, because what we found as well during COVID, once people tasted a local egg, they couldn't believe it. Like they have not gone back to that, industrial egg. And so, I guess we are, I don't know what kind, I'm not sure I don't want to call it an Amazon strategy, but it is getting people used to local food.
No, it's not at all an Amazon strategy because it incorporates what the farms have and want to sell.
Get people used to free, low cost.
I do the same thing too. I know what you're talking about. It's training consumers to think in a way they never thought before, to think that they can get these local food products conveniently. Most consumers aren't even thinking that way. Yeah. So you have to do some...
take away the reasons that they could say no.
Exactly.
And then, once, the business, and we're confident that it'll match out. But it's a good business, and it's really such a nice way for the farms too, where, again, you have overage from a farm, like a bumper crop of something. We now have the ability each week to say, hey, we'll take 200 squash, and it's just a one-time phone call sale. And it's just... it's a nice option to have in your playbook compared to the retail offering.
But you also have to have that skill so that, that Alex, who subscribed to the box, isn't getting like the kale overload.
Yeah.
Well, you know how that goes,
100%.
right? So our staff is so good at understanding what people cook with, what they need regularly, but also what's new. Like, okay, we're going to put a pawpaw in this box because it's pawpaw season and everybody should see, okay, you got to try to find 250 pawpaws. That's interesting because you know how the ripeness of pawpaws
Yes,
is.
yes.
You got to time it just right.
Instantly mush.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a pawpaw that was fresh off. A friend brought me one. Like, it's fresh. It's fresh. It looked like a 10-day-old banana.
That's perfect. You're just about right. Yeah, that's the way it should look. But it's Will Moyer is the manager of the online who curates this mix every week and makes it all work.
And you know, the nice thing about having this hub is that all the people that are running these hubs around the state now get together. So the Kalamazoo Valley Community College people have a hub, and there's a hub in Flint, and there's a hub at Eastern Market. And these hub groups are now meeting and touring each other's operations so that they can, A, understand what each other are doing, B, compare how they deal with farmers and how they work with their farms, and C, refine their techniques so that, you pack boxes that way? We pack boxes this way. We use this box. We put these things in the bottom. You know, it's just an awesome opportunity for us all to learn as we expand the local farming commitment to our community.
Yeah, and I think we said it kind of that all these hubs people work together and kind of like sharpen each other, their skills. And I talk to people all the time. I think that there is so much opportunity to grow the food distribution businesses. I tell people all the time, don't start a farm, start a food delivery CSA business and aggregate. There's tons of product out there that's going to waste at the end of farmer's market. That's going in a compost bin. And if you can capture that product, create demand, distribute it, I think that's a real opportunity to, in the future, like, everyone wants to start a farm. Like, that's, you can feed a lot more people by starting a food distribution business, I found.
Yeah. But didn't you find that with COVID? All these farms that were so smart to start aggregating, and like we know the same ones, and each other. They started consolidating from different farms, but what they learned, some of them, is that the marketing aspect of it and the oversight aspect of it is a whole different job from farming. So if you want to be a farmer, you might not want to run a CSA. So you have to have the personality type to do the thing of aggregating, because you need to be able to deal with all the other things that are getting thrown at you. Plus marketing to those consumers, right? Which is, you got to be out there.
Yeah, it's a never-ending. It's a never-ending struggle to train consumers that local food is for them.
Yeah,
that it seems so silly, but it's a convenient option. And I don't know about y'all, but I found that during COVID, a huge increase of people who are using these online models. There's kind of a fear that we're in a tailwind, that they'll just go back to how it was. But I think that e-commerce, this e-grocery is here to stay. Consumers have found the convenience and don't want to go back. I think, like, even my own mom, she shops at she moved from Meijer to Aldi because it was an online pickup. She 30 years of routinized behavior was changed just because of the convenience. So I feel like this time of tragedy is a time you're trying to get people to rethink issues, and it's time to retrain habits. So I think you're definitely in the spot to make that happen.
Agree.
So now how many years of artist is this? How many? 10,
8. 15? In August it was 8 years.
It was 8 years
of being open. Yep.
8 years of being open. So now that we're 8 years into it, almost a decade, what's kind of the next step? Where do you see yourselves growing to? Are there any new markets you're trying to get into, take your skills to? What's next?
Well, so this was a kind of an experiment when we opened this store, because it's a model that the way we've done it hasn't been fully used before. Even the one in Ohio was a farmer-owned cooperative, had different governance. So, we organized as a mission-driven LLC version. And we also kind of explored really the concept of the farm stop as a kind of a descriptor, like a noun of what we're doing. And I think it is useful in the food system in many more communities than it is currently being used. So I think where we see it going is just about any town that has a farmer's market could use a farm stop. That there's a built-in set of customers and demand. There's a built-in supply, that you've got farmers growing great stuff that I imagine would love to double their sales and bring twice as much into market and fill up a store. And so we've been doing this, kind of treating ourselves as an open source store, and we openly share whatever we've learned the same way that we learned from local roots. And so we've got a fairly big effort ongoing with training, where we Once a month, we go through a high-level 1-hour overview of how the model works for anyone who wants to learn it. And then every 3 months, we do a 3-day in-depth class where we actually have each of our functional managers explain how do you select vendors, how do you hire staff that are great, how do you do the payouts. And that's, we also do that with a goal to make it possible to open in other communities. The returns of a store like this are so positive for a community that there's an argument that can be made in many towns that you should have one. And so right now, just since we've started, there's Agricole in Chelsea, there's Acorn Market in Manchester, there's Lakeshore Depot in Marquette, there's
Random Harvest in Craryville, New York. So there's
all over.
These are popping up, and these are people who took what we do in our 3-day class. They took the class and they said, okay, I'm going to just modify what I want to do. You know, I'm Random Harvest is a women-owned cooperative. Acorn is a nonprofit. Agricole is just like us. Yeah, but all these places have affected their community, and they found their own way. Like the Lakeshore Depot up in Marquette has a kombucha manufacturer as their co-renter, so that they can pay the bills and stuff. So everybody finds a different way to do the financial model, I think.
And I think, was it Agricole or Acorn? I can't remember which one it was. That has the one have a butcher in that.
That's Acorn.
It's Acorn, yes.
Yeah.
Had a butcher
at an adjacent market, and so it's kind of like a little complex that has a regular grocery store and a butcher, and then they also have Acorn Market, which is kind of a farm stop model, and so they're all under one roof. They share infrastructure. Customers can shop from all three,
which is interesting because they occupy what was the only grocery store in this rural town, which closed, and then through a communal effort to get the grocery, because they were all shopping from a dollar store, which is, how that goes in the rural communities. They wanted a market back. So this is the reincarnation of this grocery store. So it's kind of clever, and it's very inventive.
Yeah, I was just there actually a few weeks ago checking it out, and I thought it was a really good little change to the model that I think would work well, especially in rural communities, when you don't have, let's say, a certain economic clientele that can afford a certain price. You got to have all those options to pull people into one location. I think that that's a really cool model that I think could work at a lot of places, and it might even have you might be able to get also some city support. I could see if your town did not already have a grocery store, seems like a good time to try to get in the local at the same time. Yeah. It's especially since a lot of these communities are bouncing back from the recession in 2008. Especially my own community, I grew up. The grocery store in town just reopened, and it closed in 2011, and it's just reopening just recently. And unfortunately, there's not a farm stop going in there. But at this time, this is a perfect opportunity to get those type of things included when we're rebuilding post recession. So it seems like, there's a lot of market for the local food here,
and that's the away part. I think also in our own community, we're focused on what else we can continue to do to make like this an example of what like the best local food environment could look like. So we're going to keep on, talking to classes about what we do. Look for avenues for other people to cooperate, because I think once you hit critical mass, like with the farm. We saw the highest growth in our county of any county in Michigan in farms selling direct to consumers in the ag census that came out. And for us, that's an indicator of farm health, because we know when farmers are selling directly to consumers, they're getting the highest margins. So if we look at one statistic in the ag census, it's the number of farms that have some direct to consumer sales, and that was put us number 1 in the state and in the top 10 in the country. And so I think this community, is getting momentum and continuing to grow. And once the farm part is grown and has a solid foundation, then you start to get into the other parts of the food system that people start to really work with, the dairy products or the value added products. All the other things are enabled once you have that solid foundation. So we're kind of looking forward to see what happens in our own community as well.
Yeah, we try to identify the people that are those people. For instance, I would just love to have a canned, and I don't mean tin can, but I mean canned jarred tomato sauce that was made from local tomatoes in Michigan. And And I think a lot of people don't realize that all those things are done, like all the community granges where all the people used to come together and can their tomatoes and do preservation. Those places are all closed. And to find a canning facility that will actually take a supply of tomatoes that's locally grown and fit it into their canning supply is zero chance. Because I've called them all and they're just like, no, you can't. We can't do that. We run off of tomatoes that we ship in from Italy or whatever.
Yeah.
So if we could recreate that and find somebody who's willing to do a community, if I could bring all the extra tomatoes at the end of the season and have somebody can them and we would sell them as Washtenaw County tomatoes, it would make me so happy. But you have to find that person. And that's always, you got to find the right person for the right job. And nobody has wanted to do that
yet. And one last one. I know you asked us what we're doing in the future.
No, keep talking.
I going to keep on,
it.
But I think, we also now have the capacity to do quite a bit more in food access. And so we work with Fair Food Fund to fund our Double Up Food Bucks program. And now that is giving any person who's paying with EBT, which they can do seamlessly at the register. They don't need to buy tokens or whatever. They can just pay at the register. They automatically get half off of all of our produce. And we've also worked with other nonprofits that do grants, to fund weekly of our produce box. We offer that at a tremendously discounted rate, like I think from $30 down to less than
$3.75.
So highly subsidized.
Yeah.
Highly subsidized to get that fresh food into areas that need food as well, but don't have the economic resources. So I think that's
and we deliver those boxes, which is awesome, right?
Yeah.
So you're delivering a box to somebody who might not be able to. They don't drive, maybe. So it's really interesting. We drive the delivery van sometimes, so we can get a real grasp of who's out there getting food. And the online business is, I think, something we should mention is that we were focusing on the produce boxes, but in order to do that, you have to have an online capability, right? Because people want to add on to their produce box. So if you're delivering a box and they want their groceries delivered at the same time. So that's an area where we'd like to focus growth in, because post-COVID, every grocer has seen that their online business isn't as robust as it was when COVID was in its peak. I mean,
Yeah, I really think that the online direct-to-consumer model, especially for grocery, is the next thing. It already is the thing, but I think as more consumers learn of the convenience of it and the reality of having to put the kids in soccer and run from town to town, that especially if we're in a traditional system of going to the farmers market on Saturday, making things online, having the EBT and the Double Up Food Butts, especially for folks who aren't in Michigan, Double Up Food Butts is a state program that will double your federal EBT funds. But the fact that you're doing all this, you're creating demand and helping pull that product from the farmers in your community. Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. And I can see this program, not only is it great because you're feeding folks good food, but it's double up helping the farmers as well. It's getting all those dollars directly to them. And become a middle person with that, and if you can do that efficiently, I can see the value for the farmers and community.
Absolutely.
Not having it. We did the experiment this year. We took EBT privately for our farm, and the process of building consumers for that and working with that whole system has been a lot of work. And I don't really think that future farmers are going to be doing that themselves. I think it's going to fall prominently onto third parties who are aggregating, and so it's great to see that y'all are already leading the charge on that.
We're trying.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't want to cut us off. It's been a great conversation. But before we wrap up, I want to open up if there's anything that's on your heart, anything in the food system that you want to chat about, any social issues. I want to open it up. So what's on your mind? So open platform.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think a couple things. One that are on our minds. One is, like, the food system is definitely in need of innovation. And, we've tried a new model here and it's working really well. It's by no means like the only solution. And so I would just encourage people to think about how, you can figure out ways to, make purchasing from small local farms easier, to find ways to get more sustainable incomes to those farms and to supply, communities here. So I think just a general kind of vote of encouragement that this is one model, but anything people are working on in this realm, whether it's growing or distribution or others, is super needed.
And it's super rewarding to get involved with the local food community. I mean, the farms that we've met and the people that we've met in this space, whether they're making something in an incubator kitchen or they're a farmer like you growing out in Sumter Township, or, this is a community of people who are meeting where the rubber meets the road, because it's such a fundamental part of our existence. So the food economy is a place where we can all agree upon everything, right?
Yeah, totally.
Because there's just no doubt there's a problem here.
Yes.
And one other, thing that we're thinking about is just, that the kind of the regulatory environment around food has been really crafted, by people who care, but they tend to be from large, industrial places. And that the regulations that are imposed on small to medium farms are often like a one-size-fit-all that were designed for a giant, producer. And so we see it like in the sale of eggs, that you've got farms that are growing beautiful eggs, and they can sell them at farmers markets. They're not allowed to bring those into most grocery stores because they're not, processed in a licensed facility. The investment for them to be able to meet that requirement is like $20,000 or $30,000 per farm just to be able to sell their eggs. And so there's solutions that are needed. We see it in other parts of protein, processing as well. If you raise chickens or beef or other animals for consumption, you have to drive hours to get them processed. It's very expensive. It's probably the biggest gap. I think vegetables, we can sell, at parity in very close range with, in the grocery store. Protein is still quite a bit more expensive because, we're not really paying enough attention to making it easy for farms. And so
we've seen the fallout of that in COVID with the processing centers. So, Wendell Berry always says that efficiency is something that's really at the core of what's ruined our food system, which is we've driven everything to such a high level of efficiency that we've ended up with, as Bill was saying, food processors that are so few and far between that small farms cannot take advantage of those, and they actually have been pushed out of them. And we need to have a voice in the food system. All of us need to have a voice in the food system.
And I can see some of that also too with, let's say, we need more businesses that are not just producers, that are those middle businesses. We need storage facilities. People manage, cold pack facilities, to service places like that. It's such an infrastructure heavy industry that it requires so much cold storage, so much warehousing space, whatever, to make things really, really work. And it just takes years, if not generations, to build that up to efficient levels. Like, the efficiency is what killed us, but we need localized efficiency.
We do, and it really could be, part of a kind of a farm bill in Michigan to create, the infrastructure to support small local farms. We've seen it done in Ontario. They built a meat processing center for small to local medium farms that you can bring all your animals to. It's has wonderful capabilities. It's designed for them, and then all of those goods, the benefits are shared in the whole province. And so, we're hopeful Michigan, could have as an ambition to create the best local food system in the world, and then to follow it with like the regulations that make it possible.
Yeah, well, we're the second most ag diverse state after California, and we have all the water. So I think that we're,
we're in good shape.
We're in good shape.
Well, and I will say, we the local beer example is one I bring up sometimes because I was here when you did not have great local beer being sold as widely as it is now, and there was a small change in regulations that made it possible for microbrewers, local brewers, to sell directly to consumers. And back in the 90s, that was opposed by all of the big industry, and they thought it was going to be terribly dangerous to have these breweries selling directly to consumers. There was going to be, all kinds of issues. None of those things arose. We have a beautiful industry, one of the strongest in the country. And you go into any restaurant now, and you may see some national beers, but you're definitely going to see all the local beers. And why can't it be that way for Michigan produce and Michigan proteins as well?
No, I totally agree. It's it's a long-term goal, but we're heading there. And I really appreciate y'all's work the last eight plus years before that. all the energy it takes to carry on a project like this for 8 years. We really appreciate having you both in the community. And I think that's going to wrap it up. So thank you both for being on the show. It means a lot to me.
Well, thank you, Alex, and thank you, because you're the kind of farmer that we based our business on, so we appreciate you. You're the small farmer that wants to grow and wants to do the right thing and is going to be inventive. So back at you.
Yeah, thanks for your wonderful produce and also the effort you put into kind of telling your stories on the podcast.
Oh, thanks. A huge thanks to Kathy and Bill for taking time out of their extremely busy schedules to sit down and chat with me about Argus. If you want to learn more about them or find info on starting your own farm stop, check out their website. Speaking of that, we have a very special episode of the Collaborative Farming Podcast coming out later this week with Rose Hill Farm Stop, a similar farmer-owned model based out of Bloomington, Indiana that you won't want to miss. Thanks so much for listening, y'all, and have a great day.
Hey, you all, Farmer Jesse here, just jumping in real quick to catch you up on some of what we have going on. The forum has been absolutely amazing these last few weeks, headed into the growing season. Make sure to head over there with any and all level of growing questions as they arise for you. Also, the No-Till Growers YouTube channel, that thing is back up and jamming again for another season of videos. There are new guides for onion, tomato, pepper, and spinach production. There is a seed priming primer. We were also invited by Google to beta test their new software that helps add Spanish and Portuguese subtitles and dubs to those videos. So our new videos will all have those, and slowly our older videos as well. Go over to YouTube and search for No-Till Growers and subscribe. If you'd like to support our work, you can pick up a copy of the Living Soil Handbook at no-tillgrowers.com or one of the no-till hats, which are back in stock. We've got merch there as well. The proceeds from those sales at no-tillgrowers.com go to supporting our work, which is free and open to the public. If that work has benefited you and you have the means to pitch in, that would be super rad. Or even better, become a yearly or monthly patron at patreon.com/no-tillgrowers, where not only may you get discounts on our stuff, but at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs this week to Closter Farm and Livestock Co., Bill Altman, and Stephen Smith. Huge shout out to everyone who supports our work in whatever way that you can. The Patreon page is the lifeblood of our work, so we hope you will hop on board. And that's it for me. Thanks, you all. We'll see you later. Bye.